My guest this week on the Northeast podcast is an all-round nice guy, someone who's quite the showman, and a good friend of mine. The owner of Jam Jar Cinema here in Whitley Bay, it's Mr. Dan Ellis. And here we are with Dan Ellis at the Jam Jar Cinema, owner and managing director. We're having a little pint. Cheers. Chin. As it's a little bit late, we're here after hours because Jam Jar Cinema is so busy at the minute, and we literally couldn't fit this into the schedule unless we did it late at night. How are you doing? How's everything going here?
Well, as you said, we've had our busiest ever season. Mm-hmm. We are in the midst of Bohemian Rhapsody, which has had very mixed reviews by the critics, but every single person who's came here has loved it. Right. It's scoring an A on Cinema Score as well. Audiences are going wild for it. It's done mega bucks at the box office. And amazingly, we've sold out every single screening we've done of it. And we're getting constant daily emails going, can you put more on? And we just can't fit it in at the minute. So hence why we're here pushing midnight. And like last week was our best ever week. Ever. Beat last year's Christmas, which I never thought we would do.
Right.
So it's really exciting.
Fantastic.
It's exciting
so
times.
Was it Bohemian Rhapsody that pretty much helped beat it?
Well, we had a really good back end of the week with Bohemian Rhapsody coming in on Friday. But it was half term, murky weather. We had a really good offering in Smallfoot, which I know a lot of parents enjoyed, probably more than their kids. Johnny English Strikes Back did fabulously well for us. And then a couple of holdover titles, The First Man, A Star Is Born. And honestly, it was bedlam in here. We're just kind of catching our breath, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if people know a bit of backstory between us. We've been friends for maybe 5-6 years now.
Yeah, about that.
It started off when maybe Jam Jar Cinema was maybe 2 months old, maybe 3 months old, and I walked in as I was a carer for a gentleman who still works here actually, and we got chatting, and then you pretty much offered us to come run the show a little bit here at Jam Jar.
It's a very different place.
Different place.
Yeah,
but,
different
obviously,
place.
Even this jazzy wall behind and stuff is all completely different. But different times as well. And it's so good to hear that the place, the best ever week, you keep topping it. Our best ever week back then was...
Well, actually, funny enough, I remember when we first got digital cinema in. So when we first opened, none of us really knew anything about running a cinema. Right. I certainly didn't. I just pretended to. But when we managed to get the money together, put digital cinema, and I remember playing that trailer for Spectre, and getting that, boom, boom, and I was like, wow, we're never going to do better than this. And amazingly, every single film that we've pretty much done since has done better than that. Yeah. But
that was... If we can for a bit, take it even further back.
Yeah.
We when I started working here and kind of we started becoming friends, it was very much a put on a classic movie which needed to make 100 quid back for it to make profit.
Yeah. So it's a really interesting model. Yeah. Which when I say no one knew how to run a cinema, we didn't. They have what they call theatrical and non-theatrical releases. A theatrical release is like going to the main pictures, what we do now. To be able to screen those, you have to have the most recent equipment. And with that equipment, it has to have fail-safes to ensure that it can't be pirated, which is fair dues in an age of Netflix, Amazon Prime, and multiple-point YouTube and torrent sites. Yeah. You understand when a movie costs 300 million that they want to protect their IP. Unfortunately, the cheapest system to do that's 50 grand, which we didn't have at the time. Oh, yeah. So we ran as what they call an E-cinema rather than a D-cinema, which D means digital, E means it's electric.
I'm sure I saw a painting or photo on the wall at the Dome of the Palladium electric cinema. So we were still in the
1912s. Yeah. It was a ceiling-mounted high-end home cinema projector running on DVDs, and we got DVDs early. And when I say early, we'd get them maybe 4 weeks before they came out on Blu-ray. And as part of that contract, you had to pay quite a lot of money as a minimum to screen a film. And if you showed it once, it was roughly 100 quid. If you showed it 6 times, it was 300 quid. So in our mind was, let's put it on 6 times. But actually, if you had a flop, we were losing money.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were really tough times, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, okay, so we've established that a little bit, but I even want to take it back even further to the inception of this place, because obviously Whitley Bay, we both from Whitley Bay, growing up pretty much a couple streets away from each other. Knew each other a little bit in high school from doing the plays and stuff like that, but I didn't
really know
much
you,
more.
though.
And I think obviously most businesses in Whitley Bay, or most businesses in general, small businesses, struggle to get off the ground in the first 3 years. Most of them don't make
90% of new startups fail within the first 3 years.
Right.
It's not just here; that's nationwide.
Right.
And you know what? It's really tough on the high street at the minute. Business rate review has killed a lot of small businesses, internet shopping, out of town shopping. But I suppose we were facing very different challenges. I trained at drama school, and actually I trained in drama education, specialising in doing things in non-theatrical spaces, arts things in non-theatre spaces. So I had a lot of experience of like touring into schools, doing kind of drama and prison work. But I kind of decided that I wanted to make something or do something. So I came back and I did a master's in business at Newcastle. And it was a very good course. There were very few courses at the time offering arts and business as a master's. And I felt that I really needed that underpinning to kind of... most artists are poor. They don't know how to value the work. They don't know how to kind of get things off the ground. And it was a real year of thinking space. And to fund that, I worked a fairly uninspiring job scanning tickets down the road at the Playhouse. And the number of people who came in going, you don't do pictures here anymore. I've been staying at the caravan park for years and years and years. I go to the same B&B every same week. And all of a sudden I kind of thought, do you know what? I wonder if there's a way that we can make cinema work here. So we scoured high and low for a building, and with some negotiation, it took nearly a year to negotiate the lease on this place. And the landlord's very good. We did a step deal. So actually, we offered them 20% of the going rate the first year. If we're still trading, we'll offer you 30. We'll offer you 50 the following. We'll offer you 75. And then, you know what? If we're making money, you're making money. And if we're investing in your building, it's going to have more residual value. But we had no cash. The time I was 22. I mean, we're going back to 2011, starting to think of this idea. We were founded in 2012 officially, but we had a kind of a year of development work. We did a few pilot activities. So we went to some above pubs, some churches, and people didn't really get it. A couple of local people did, and they didn't get that 3 young lads just wanted to run a cinema in Whitley Bay. Mostly because of Whitley Bay's past. And we actually got treated the same way from the police. They didn't quite understand it. They were quite reluctant to give us a licensed venue. And I mean, to be honest, all arts venues are subsidised by having a drink. Mm-hmm. A little segue to have a little cheeky sip there. But we're in a position where I thought, right, the local authority were fabulous. They gave us a small grant to pilot some youth work. It didn't go very well, but we said, screw it, let's go for it anyway. We went to them again and said they had a fund for activities for young people. And we said, look, if you can give us 10 grand as a grant, I think we can open a cinema. We've got another 10 grand loan. We didn't. So we actually applied to the government loan scheme, the startup loan company, and went to them and said, look, we've got a 10 grand grant, but I have to have it matched. And we didn't have the grant. And this whole lie just managed to get lucky. And I remember the day, I was at the Whitley Lodge Winter Fair, and I just got this phone call going, look, you've got this grant. I had to then the next day ring them up. I went into this interview for this startup loan. I remember the guy sitting us down going, look, I don't want you to ruin your life you've asked for £15,000. I can't authorise it. I can give you 10. And I was like, great, I'll make it work. I'll make it work. Unfortunately, what I hadn't realised at the time was that difference of $5,000 meant that we couldn't afford builders, or we couldn't afford.
Right.
We had we were in a couple of business plan competitions, so we had a little bit of money in the bank. We signed the lease, we got planning, and we just thought,
We just flying on the seat.
oh, no idea what we were doing. And I had a really good mentor who was really supportive. But interestingly, we had no one from the cinema industry helping us. And we just kind of took the venue on. And I bought a $2.99 app on the App Store to do the floor plan. Drew a floor plan up.
Which you still use now, right?
I still use that now, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm pretty good. I've mastered it. It's taken 7 years. I've mastered that app. But we kind of said, right, that's it. We're going to just do it. And the ambition was that if we could get 5,000 admissions a year, that would be a huge success. The first summer, like, to build the place was absolute hell. Stephen, who's on the board, we ended up not speaking because we were spending each and every day here. I had a fabulous friend who was leaving at 3 o'clock in the morning and come back at 7 to help get us open. She called in an army of volunteers, and actually we had like everyone from 8-year-old kids painting the walls to 90-year-olds help tiling. The night before we opened, we had to put the opening back 2 weeks. And the night before we opened, we had no power, we had no flooring, we had chairs, but the projection wasn't working. We had a screen, but it wouldn't go up or down. We had no running water. And I just remember my grandma, she passed away now, just polishing the glasses. It's one of those really nice memories. And we just call in favour, can you come and put some furniture together? Can you come and stay late? Do you know what? I haven't got a waste for the sink. Can you just make the sinks work so they can run? Right. Actually, the toilets aren't going to flush tomorrow. And rather than doing this grand big opening, we said, right, we're just going to fly on the seat of our pants. We'll do an opening. We'll put some balloons outside. We're all, by this point, we've got a good team of volunteers, about 15 to 20 volunteers at this point, and we're just going to see what happens. We'll do a little short film festival. Free stuff, and you can come on in, you can have a look at the place. And I mean, it was nothing like this. It was so rough and so cheap. I mean, this was a derelict job centre.
Well, you only had 20 grand to turn a job centre into a cinema.
Yeah. And when I say this building hadn't been touched since 1997, so it was battleship blue walls, electrical. Yeah, I think it was last used as a computer training venue. And we called in loads and loads of favours. But that first day, September the 13th, 2013, we opened, and we invited a lot of the top brass from the council, because honestly, they're such good pals, and they get such a bad rep, quite wrongly, I think, North Tyneside Council. And we invited them down, and I mean, from when we did a press photo with Mayor Redfern to 3 weeks later, I think the transformation was quite huge. Across that day, the target was 5,000 admissions in a year. We had 1,100 people come into the building on the opening day. And the reason for that was we were the first good thing to happen at Whitley Bay in quite some time.
Yeah.
And I'm quite proud of that now that I reflect back on it, because Whitley Bay today is a very different town to what it was 6 years ago.
Just 6 years ago.
It's just 6 years ago. I mean, you look at it now, and we've always had flourishing independent shops, but we have a lot more independent restaurants, microbreweries and pubs. We have a really diverse nighttime economy.
Yeah.
And it's so different. And I'm really proud, I live 5 minutes away from here, that the Stag and Hen past is gone.
Right.
And actually what we've now created is a really premium nighttime experience. And I think we were kind of that little flag bearer.
Right.
And it's really interesting when you look at other towns across, like you look at Berwick, Alnwick, Hexham, South Shields, they all have cinemas. They all have theatre spaces. Whilst we'll have a receiving theatre down the road, it was really missing that cinema offering. And like we look at that now, and the town's just such a different place to what it was 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. As is this place, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
I remember we covered the walls inside the screen in acoustic foam
Yeah.
because we couldn't afford to have it plastered. it was 300 quid cheaper just to no more nails, foam onto the walls.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting, I think the big change, there's a few big changes. At that time, I basically volunteered here 70 hours a week for 2 years, didn't get paid. I remember I used to nick 20 quid out the till a week and hope that I never got caught. I don't know who was going to catch us. But that was my spendies, and I felt like terrible, like I was going to die inside. And I just I remember that I said, look, I'll do this until May 2016 because it'll be such a good CV booster for myself.
Right.
That was what I kept telling myself. But by kind of like March 2015, I was like, this is gradually starting to work. And I thought if we actually were able to show like newer films, it really could work. It was then when I realised that we need 50 or 60 grand to be able...
So I'll stop you there. So we had... just to recap for people, the Jam Jar Cinema had at the time, we were running off DVDs, and a lot of people, and the reputation the cinema had was, a lot of people were coming up because I used to work behind the bar and say, you don't do anything, you don't do the new stuff here, but it also had almost this cult following at the time, didn't it? It was quite culty. It was quite, people would rather wait until 4 weeks before the film came out on DVD to watch it at Jam Jar Cinema than go see it first day at the...
Yeah.
And so there was... When we started seeing sellouts and quite regular people coming a lot of the time, maybe a year and a half into the thing, would you say maybe earlier?
Yeah.
And people started to take care of this business.
It became about 18 months in. That first 18 months were a real slog, but 18 months in, it became adopted by people, and that was the change. It was that people started to think, if we don't support this, it's going. And it became, I kind of want to go at the pictures. I don't really care what I want to see, to be honest with you. But I want to go local. And I want to go to Sambuca's, or I want to go to the Roxborough across the road, or I want to go to Wetherspoons. And we managed to, on a really particularly good spell, I think it was Christmas 2014, I think that probably rings a bell, into kind of the awards season that year, we did ridiculous business. And all of a sudden it went from, wow, this is a struggling film society trying to get 5,000 admissions to actually we've done 9,000 this year. But that's still pretty pants for the size of the town that we are.
Right.
And I remember thinking, look, we've just got to do it.
Yeah.
It's either stay as we are and we'll close next May because I'm leaving, or we're going to have to try and step this up. And I remember thinking to myself going, you know what? What's the worst that can happen? So I went to the bank and I said, we had about 30 grand and I knew we needed about 65. And I said, look, will you loan us the money? Here's a full business plan.
Is this a lie this time?
No, the lie comes later.
Right.
And I had this massive big business plan, like 40 pages, and I'd already had contacts, and I actually spent a lot of time getting to know the cinema industry, funnily enough. And I was like, we can do this. Met a fantastic team who we still work with up in Edinburgh. And they basically said, no, we're not going to loan you any money. It's too risky for us. And I was like, oh. And bearing in mind, I hadn't been paid for 2 years. I went into the bank the following week and I said, would I be able to have a £20,000 car loan, please? And they said yes. And I remember then I went out and maxed out a credit card. And we had enough money to do everything. And
do you take cash out on that credit card?
No, I didn't take cash out on the credit card. I paid for all of the refurbishment of the inside of the screen on the credit card. And then I used the 20 grand loan and the 30 grand to buy all the cinema equipment. And I remember that was kind of... We did the refurb the May 2015 and we put the cinema equipment in.
We were out here stapling.
I'm
now a qualified upholsterer.
Yeah.
The back wall, if anyone comes in here, the back wall was done by 2 or 3 of us volunteers at the time.
You remember we got that quote and it was like $7,000 for an acoustic wall, and we're like, right, I'll go buy some timber.
Yeah.
We'll use all the things that used to be stuck on the wall, and we'll just stretch some canvas over it.
Yeah, we'll put that in, and then we'll have like nice material.
It's one of the best bits of the cinema now. I reckon.
It's a feature wall. Sweat and blood went into that.
Oh, it really did.
Yeah.
Catherine, bless her, did a fab job.
I still my thumb, so literally blood.
Yeah. Third Tyler Long. Yeah, look closely. Blood splat.
Handprint.
But at that point, we started putting this gear in, and we started showing the films about a month after they came out, and at that point, we were still probably doing maybe 10 screenings a week. But then they started filling up. Then we were like, right, well, we're going to have to open our hours longer. But at that point, it was like, well, I can't work down the road anymore. I'm going to have to do this, but I'm going to have to get paid to do that because I can't survive.
So you were working at the Playhouse all the way up until then?
I worked at the Playhouse till then on night times. I was working, doing drama facilitation sessions. I was touring as an actor. I was doing a bit of freelance kind of project management work for lottery projects. That was the only way I could live. And then
taking 20 quid out the till for
£20 a week.
A few pints.
£20 a week on a Friday night pints.
Yeah.
And Sundays, because at the time we were closed on a Sunday and didn't reopen until Wednesday, I used to pray there were open bottles of wine so I could take them.
I remember that, yeah.
And every time, I don't drink red, when there was that bottle of red wine.
Yeah.
And I just, and I remember thinking, right, we're going to have to do more. And then I had to do more. And then it was like, look, I can't do this by myself. And some of the volunteers are leaving, and actually this is now becoming a job, so we're going to take a few more people on, and then all of a sudden we kind of traded like that. Things were doing well, then it went mental. We hit Christmas and award season again, and we ended up in 6 months being able to pay off all the money that I'd borrowed, and then all of a sudden go, well, great, well, that's worked well. Then we kind of get thinking, we'll start taking some titles early. I remember I came in on week 4. The cinema slang, week 4 means that you get it the 4th Friday. It's like 3 weeks after it came out, on Beauty and the Beast. I thought that was huge at the time. And Beauty and the Beast made us a fortune. It was great.
Yeah. We had a bet. What was the other movie that you said? Was it Lego Movie?
Lego
Batman.
Lego Batman.
What made more, Lego Batman or Beauty and the Beast?
Lego Batman.
You said Beauty and the Beast?
Wow.
The lying trend is running through this conversation.
No, Beauty and the Beast did make more.
Okay.
And we, and at that point, it was like, do you know what? We need to start considering becoming a full-time cinema. And we're kind of flash forwarding to like, I want to say it was June last year. Mm-hmm. I remember the first film where we became a proper cinema was June last year, and the first film that we came in on was Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, I like that. No one else did.
No, the last one. What was it called? Dead Man's Chest.
Tell No Tales.
Dead Men Tell No Tales. And by that we took it a fortnight after it came out, and we started running the business on splits, which means that half the program is split with one film. A fortnight after it comes out, half of it is split with something else. So at that kind of time, we were playing things like A Dog's Purpose, that was okay, Alien Covenant, that was okay, and what we knew is what we call the matinee type films that are playing to an older audience profile. We could play those a little bit later in their release because it takes a little bit longer for people to find out about them. And all of a sudden, we went from doing an average of 10 shows a week to doing an average of 30. And then very quickly, we were selling out 30 screenings a week. And our average occupancy now across a week is about 70%, which is actually really strong. If you ask me this month, we've run at 95% occupancy.
Wow.
It's been mental. So I'm now full-time here. We've got 14 staff. Interestingly, we don't have any volunteers. The reasoning for that is this is a job. And that transition from being a film society, where it was all a bit ad hoc, to actually, we want to offer a world-class cinematic experience and something that people who visit here think, wow, that's amazing. But also people who live here think, do you know what? It's really great that we've got this in our town.
Right.
And we have to be fully sustainable to be able to do that. Which has been a really weird transition, going from what was a business designed on the back of a napkin in the Berkeley Tavern 7 years ago to probably one of the biggest nighttime economy businesses in the town. It's been quite a weird transition.
Yeah, because I remember I used to tell people I worked at Jam Jar Cinema, and the first thing people say was, where? And
we still get that.
Yeah, but so we can talk about this. The issue, I don't know if you've still got them, put up massive letters saying Jam Jar Cinema across all
on the windows. They're still there on the windows.
And but the problem is people don't look up on the high street. And effectively, Jam Jar Cinema is a 50-seat screen. I don't think we even mentioned
No, I haven't.
And it's a purple door at the bottom of a street next to Ladbrokes and opposite the mall, shopping mall. And it would be a lot of, you know where Mourns is, and then it's like Ladbrokes. Opposite there, and then there's a door. Is there really? Yeah. But when people came up, and I remember when I first came up, I thought, excuse me, I remember my mum telling me about this place, telling me about you and telling me about the place, and I just thought to myself, oh, right, okay, so I thought you'd be sitting on deck chairs and stuff, but when I walked in that cinema, which hasn't really changed, the screen is a bit bigger. The screen's obviously bigger. The walls got a nice Venetian plaster on it. The if I do say so myself, the feature wall's fantastic, and obviously the quality and everything's changed. But the fundamental, seeing those the Odeon seats and seeing it look proper and professional from its inception, I thought was left a lasting impression on what I thought this place could be, I think, actually.
So part of the design, and I don't mean the physical design, but the business design was, if we want a cinema to succeed, we have to be better than the competition for less. And I think that's the... I'll tell you me. I'll save everyone like $5,000 and don't go to business school. I learned two things. One was you need to be better for less. And the other one was there's 4 ways to grow a business. And I'm telling you, this was the most valuable thing that I learned. Yeah. You could have bought it in a little flashcard.
Tell me how to grow the podcast.
How to grow your podcast. So you increase the number of people who buy from you. You increase the number of people you increase the number of people who buy from you. You increase the number of times they buy from you. You increase how much they spend with you, and you cut your costs. So those 2 things were central. And the third thing was that we're a social enterprise. So actually, where's the good? Mm-hmm. And ironically, the where's the good is always the first question. The second question is how we're making money. And third question is how we're not going bust.
Right.
And everything that we do, we have a really quite bizarre little Excel spreadsheet, which kind of you can put numbers in and it'll come out with things.
It's Excel.
That
is how Excel works.
That is how Excel works, yeah. I mean, Microsoft is still trading. It's amazing. It's amazing.
They must have increased the number of people.
And I just remember thinking to myself that we have to be better than a multiplex, or we have to have a different offering that is better. So actually, for us, we have to be friendly. We have to be customer focused. We are a weird formation of a company called a community interest company. We're halfway between a limited company and a charity, but we can trade for any purpose that benefits our community. So we have to be accountable to our community. So the films that we put on have to be things that people want to see. We have to do things that people care about. And we have to be responsive to people who use us. We don't see any money that comes through our tills as our money. I'm not going to buy a Lamborghini.
Unless it's 20 quid on a Friday night.
Unless it's 20 quid on a Friday night or a bottle of half-drunk wine. Yeah, but I mean, if anyone wants to buy us a drink, I'd appreciate it. But we're talking that the money that we take is local people's. And we'll have that sort of sense of... I remember feeling really bad. I'm putting 30 grand in as a loan to be able to buy this projector. I felt guilty for using 30 grand of the cinema's money for the rest of it. And I remember thinking, looking in the mirror going, right, you have to do this. You have to. This is what's going to benefit.
Well, that was
your
a big
community.
conversation we all had behind closed doors, was in front of everybody, and I think one of your not issues, I don't know if it's an issue, but is, I think so. For example, it was a do a number 2 or get off the pot, and I think you just need that little bit of push it over the edge. And I think a lot of us, the committee that ran Jam Jar Cinema at the time, obviously you run, but were just like, we'll have to do this.
Yeah.
We couldn't keep running on DVDs.
And what's really interesting is now that is my job.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting, the fabulous thing is we were able to employ my old boss this year, right. Rachel, who came and joined us from the Playhouse. Yeah. And what
got her out there.
Yeah, what an impact she's had on our business.
Right.
So she's joined us as our head of ops. She runs the business day to day, which has actually freed me up to do what actually I'm quite good at, which is growing our business, figureheading our business, programming and marketing. And what you've probably noticed since January, and people who are listening to the podcast are thinking is, you know what, there's been a really wide, diverse cross-section of films. Interestingly, the average cinema goer goes to the cinema 2.6 times a year. If you are a Meerkat Movies customer, which we don't do, you'll go 3.5 times a year. So if you've been more than 3 times, you're a regular customer. If you've been more than 5 times, you're a loyal customer. If you've been more than 10 times in a year, you are a devout customer. Wow. That is how cinemas are viewed.
Once every month and a bit, you are.
That's why a lot of the multiplexes sign you up to these $17.99 a month limitless cards, because it's like a gym membership. They know you're not going. They know that you're going to see the big films, but they don't come out every single week.
Right.
And unless you're one of the diehards who are using it week in, week out, it's bad value.
Okay.
So I just remember thinking to myself, look, I'll tell you what it was, actually. We were shortlisted as Cinema of the Year last year at the Screen Awards, and it was a huge deal. I mean, this was like every business should have that kind of like forward strategy, and ours was we'd like to get some major funding in, which we're talking about in a bit, and would like to be shortlisted as the best cinema with under 25 screens in the UK. And we got shortlisted last year, and I was so confident that we were going to lose. And like 100%. And I remember our programmer in Scotland, Pete, great guy, was like, Dan, you need to go to this do. Like, honestly, what you've done in 4 years, I think you're underestimating how much of an impact you've had in the Northeast film scene. There's never been anyone as grow as rapidly as yourselves. And I was like, nah, don't worry about it. Look, I'm not going. I went on holiday, and the night of the awards due, I flew back and I turned my phone off airplane mode, and we came second. We were highly commended. We lost to Zeffirelli's in Ambleside, which, if anyone's been to, is one of my favourite venues in the country. I mean, it's amazing.
Really?
And we were actually highly commended. I remember thinking, why didn't I go? And my phone, Twitter, bing, right. Facebook, bing, messages, bing. Then Pete sending me a "I told you so" email, and I'm just thinking, should have been there. And all of a sudden I thought, you know what? It's when the goal was then that we want 5,000 admits, we're up to 40,000. I think we are currently the smallest DCI compliant screen, single venue in Europe.
Wow.
Unfortunately, there's Ilkley Cinema, which was a 57-seater, and we stole their crown. I know.
Take it.
Yeah, I'll take it. And actually, we're one of the busiest single-screen cinemas in the UK by audience capacity for audience size, and we're really punch above our weight.
Yeah. In saying that, I remember checking, what paper did you used to check when there was a movie that would flop everywhere else but would do quite well?
Our Comscore.
And we'd make the top.
Do you know, when you hear every week of the top 15 movies, Bohemian Rhapsody's done 5.3 million this week. Because we were coming in like 3 or 4 weeks after, there'd be a random film where it would make the top 10. Cliff Richard. They're just gone. I've looked at the figures and I'm like, oh, you've done really well on that. Yeah. We tend The Wife that were played recently, and I was like, wow, we could have sold twice as many tickets if we had an extra screen.
Yeah.
And we're still doing that. There are titles that are really connecting with our local audience. And I'm really proud that we're able to screen here. I remember thinking to myself, wow, the Bond situation of it's mint that we are playing the latest James Bond film.
It was almost chill-inducing to hear the because what I think it symbolized a journey from we're going bust possibly if someone doesn't show up to this screening today.
Yeah.
To
we played Tammy.
I mean the flop of all flops.
The flop of all flops.
You won't have heard of it.
Yeah, you won't. It's a Melissa McCarthy and Susan Sarandon movie. If you were one of the 3 people that came and saw it across its 6 screenings,
But hearing that Bond theme and hearing Star Wars, it was the first new Star Wars. What was it?
Force Awakens. And when we first put the Dolby sound in, proper compressed Dolby speakers for Jeremy Irons in Batman vs Superman.
It makes good men
cruel.
And
Batman vs Superman, which, I mean, it took 800 million worldwide. It did not take 800 million in there.
You couldn't pay me to watch that film. But in reflection, Interstellar, to anyone who came and saw Interstellar...
I apologise.
The speakers just couldn't handle the...
So interestingly, back then, when Interstellar was such a big film, Christopher Nolan... I would like to write a letter if Christopher Nolan watches this.
Oh, please.
And that would be great. I'm looking directly down the camera lens at you, Chris, and saying, please stop breaking my speakers. Interstellar, you broke my centre speaker that was always on that wonky little stand, which Darren made for us. And there was that much sound coming through. You couldn't... It was dreadful. Then we did Dunkirk with all the bombs going off. And then you broke one of my left speakers. So it cost us 1,200 quid to get another speaker set in.
What's he got next?
Hopefully nothing.
Yeah. I mean, a film titled The Silent Game.
Yeah, like no dialogue, no sound effects.
Yeah.
No, but
film.
I mean, we did fantastic business on Dunkirk, but by the time we fixtured in the sound improvements, I mean,
you're back in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, I've got a list of questions I haven't even asked you here.
Yeah, I know. You put out on Facebook and asked for a couple of people to message in for you.
So here we go. Okay, so actually, this is just a personal question of mine because what I've seen, if people have never met Dan before, I've never been at Jam Jar Cinema before. Me and a couple of people who may know you have chats not behind you, but obviously behind your back, obviously.
Behind my back.
But about how much of this place is based on how much of this place success is based on who you are as a person. And I know you're quite a modest guy, and again, I know it's hard to reevaluate yourself, but the question is pretty much how much does your attitude and your demeanor, or not you personally, but how far does attitude get you into building a successful business?
Okay. I think that a business owner or manager is instrumental in setting the direction of a business. And on reflection, a lot of this business is me. Because I love this place. I love this town. I live 5 minutes away. I grew up 10 minutes away. But the long and the short of it is that a business is only successful if other people have the same value set as the person doing it. And one of the things that I'm quite passionate in is I have really high standards, like really high standards.
In terms of what?
Everything. If someone came to me and said, your projection was poor, I'd be horrified. If someone came to me and said, please don't, the floor was dirty, I'd be horrified. Complaints that we get here that are fairly common are that I'm either too hot or too cold, which is a lot of the time down to the individual. It's too loud, it's too quiet, which again is it down to the individual. And I can deal with those, and we can give advice on if you find a film loud, sit towards the back. If you find it quiet, sit towards the front. If you find it cold, don't sit under the air conditioning. If you're hot, sit under the air conditioning. But actually the ethos and culture here I'm really proud of, and I'll stand by that. Actually, we have tried to be deliberately different, and actually in other terms you'd call it disruptive, that actually we're not doing a typical cinema model. We publish our programme ideally in 4 to 8 weeks notice, so you can plan to come with friends. No other cinema does that. You go on a multiplex, you can book 8 days in advance. But you know what? I want to go with flow to see this. On this day, can I book in advance? Yes, you can. We thank every single person who leaves here, because realistically, I wouldn't have a job if people didn't come and spend their money here. None of the staff would, and that's constantly reminded.
This feature wall wouldn't be
this beautiful feature wall bought in Monk's Eaton. And things like that is 90% of our spend is local, within 10 miles. Our wine is the account manager lived around the corner.
Geordie White.
No, Eden Wine. I wish Geordie Wine would
Geordie
be a
Wine
good
would be interesting,
brand.
yeah.
No, Eden Fine Wines. They do us a lovely list. They supply a lot of local people. We've got most of the rest of our alcohol and refreshment stock come from Walker. We're in a collective for programming, and I'm really proud to support local businesses. And that's one of our things that we're quite... Lots of people say, why don't you do a cafe offering? I want you to go to the restaurant next door. Right. I want you to go to the cafe underneath us.
Yeah.
I want you to spend locally. And as we're trying to gear up to expand and grow, one of the things that I'm quite proud of is that our social mission is coming across really strongly. How much of this business is me is quite a lot. But actually, for the last year, I've been able to step back quite a bit, right, and be quite a lot more strategic. I think it's probably the best way of describing it. Tiresome is a more realistic approach.
Hence being here at
midnight.
11 at night.
Yeah, we're coming up to midnight now, and it's like... but at the end of the day, this is my baby. This will always be my baby. But actually, it's in a position where if I was ever to want to leave, it's safe. And I think actually what's really interesting is that a lot of small businesses are built around an individual who are so intrinsic to its operation that if that person was to... I always use the expression "get hit by a bus." Right. I know it's dreadful. We could all get hit by a bus tomorrow. Yeah. It'd be an awful way to go. And at a point, if I was hit by a bus, this business was going under. If I'm hit by a bus today, someone can take my job.
Right.
But
they can. But a bit like the Steve Jobs thing, like Apple has never really been the same since Steve Jobs has gone. I'm trying to think of another example, but Steve Jobs is probably the best example. Is it can carry on, but how much of your direction, your insight, personally, do you think impacts this business? Are you quite? Because I remember back in the day, you used to bounce ideas off people.
Yeah.
And you need a little bit. You always needed encouragement for the big things. But I think I still thought in my mind, you were bouncing ideas off people because you just wanted encouragement to go, yeah, this is probably the right thing to do. I think you've probably got I'm assuming, have you got a 5-year plan for the place? Have you got a...
Yeah. So interestingly, a lot of the bouncing ideas isn't about getting validation. It's about bringing people along on the journey with you. And that we need people to go, yeah, actually I'm on board with that. Or, you know what, I really, really hate that idea, but I'll go for it anyway. I would probably say myself, as cinema operators and owners, if we call it owners in the UK, I would like to think myself in the top 20 in terms of value, reinvestment in their business. I want to be thought of as the nicest guy in the cinema business. That's my personal ambition.
Okay.
I see a lot of people who... We have a rule that we only trade with nice people. That's why we use a lot of local suppliers. What's really interesting now is we're at a point of growth, and it's actually a really challenging time for the cinema. We're doing fabulously well. Touch wood, long may it continue. But in real terms, we need to grow. and grow quickly.
Right.
We actually have 3 offers out on buildings at the moment in the town. And this is a direct down the camera look going, we are not leaving Whitley Bay. There's been some wild rumour. I live 5 minutes away and I do not want to have to drive to work.
Yeah,
I work till midnight and I like to have a drink. We have 3 offers on the town, on buildings in the town. One including next door, which has been a very drawn out saga and disappointing saga.
Even since I've been working, even since year 1 or 2, that place next door has always been empty. And if anyone doesn't know, there is a cinder block.
Good story.
Wall.
This is a really good story.
There's a cinder block wall between the utility cupboard of this half of the building and the next half of the building, and it's literally just cinder block.
Yeah.
And one night, I think we did pretty much what we're doing right now, but with
it was a lot later.
Decided to chip away at some of the concrete that was sticking the bricks together, and we saw through a peephole about this much. Because did you know what was really there?
No, I had no idea. I've never been up there at that point. I would say that we were slightly more inebriated.
And this must have been 2013. No, we started 2015.
2015, I'd say.
Yeah, so it's still a few years ago. But it was, what was quite weird is when we went to look at it a few months ago. Anyway, there was a green light that we could see. Couldn't we?
Yeah. So we hammered away with this chisel.
What freaked me out was I remember seeing this little green light through the concrete. And I just thought to myself, as it was 5 a.m. probably or something like that, and we'd had a fair few, if something blocks that light for a second. Oh.
Yeah. Like that scene in Signs when the alien walks past.
Like that, in movie history. But we went and saw it a couple months ago.
They'd plastered the other side of the wall.
They blocked it up.
So they'd actually, what I didn't know is it's breeze block on our side,
right,
but they'd plastered and painted. So when went to look, the agents opened the building, and do you know how there was that massive pile of rubble on the floor?
Yeah.
That was because we've actually knocked the wall. And I was like, but you know what? We were the first people to see that 4 years on from when that happened.
Yeah. And we saw the green light, and it was just an
emergency light. So
it wasn't something of the Great Gatsby way.
No, the beacon in the distance.
Yeah, no.
I think so. We've had 2 offers accepted on the space upstairs next door. Accessibility has always been a problem here. Unfortunately, large spaces are needed for cinemas. Large downstairs spaces are very, very expensive, especially on the high street. So the space next door has a very large ground floor area that we could put a lift in. It has quite a grand staircase. We'd be able to put an extra screen in. And twice the sale has now fallen through. It fell through about a fortnight ago for the last time. I've probably put maybe 6 months of work into it. We've had a whole host of suppliers. We've tendered out for lifts, for technical equipment, for air conditioning. We've done all the planning documents. We've had drawings done. We've probably sunk about 10 grand plus my staff time into it, and we're no farther forward than we were in February last year.
Wow.
So it sits there empty. We've actually gone to them with an ultimatum saying, look, this is the offer that we're going to make you. I think personally it's a very fair offer. It's less than we offered last time. It's to buy the upstairs. And the reason why it's less is we were hopeful of being open. My dream, my year ambition, that forward strategy was I want my second screen open in time for Mary Poppins Returns at Christmas. And that's long gone.
Yeah.
And the amount of money that's gone in and lost revenue from not being open for the Christmas period and the awards of the cinema, we've had to knock it down. So we'll see what they come back and say. There is another option on a large building in the town that I can't talk about, which we'll know by the end of the month. And There's a very small unit that we're looking at to have a little boutique 30-seat screen as well. But we can't talk about that either. So I think it's to reiterate for everyone listening.
Yeah.
We are 100% committed to Whitley Bay.
Okay.
This is my hometown, and when you say how much of this is me, this is my hometown.
Yeah.
This is my line in the sand.
Right.
The line's drawn here, no farther.
Right.
We need a second screen, and a big part of that is programming flexibility. So we can take films nice and early, but we can still have other films. So we don't get emails going, look, can you play Bohemian Rhapsody still? I want to be able to play Bohemian Rhapsody. But also I want to play more specialised content. I want to play foreign language, documentary. I want to be doing fundraising nights. I want to be doing more private hire type activity.
Stuff like autism-friendly screenings.
Yeah, and you know what? Subtitle screening. Subtitling is a huge problem in the UK. We have a subtitled Bohemian Rhapsody tomorrow that's half full. And the reason for that is that people are put off by it. But actually, people who need that should be able to come. But as a single screen cinema...
Tomorrow being, just FYI...
whenever.
Tomorrow being actually probably after this...
Yeah. We're talking now, yeah. But what's quite interesting is that it shouldn't be accessibility should never be an economic consideration in a social enterprise.
Yeah.
If we put on a relaxed autism-friendly screening or a subtitle screening, we know that we're probably not making any money on those, and that's fine. But there are times where if we're short, we're short.
Right.
So actually having that second screen or a smaller screen or a larger screen, where that flexibility. It's other things. We constantly sell out some stuff. The Event Cinemas does very, very well here. National Theatre Live, in particular. We've Exhibition on Screen does very well here. Operas and ballet do very well here. So physical accessibility, a lot of older people can't get up into the building. A lot of young mums with prams. Operationally, running a bar up 2 flights of stairs, bringing up all the Coke cases and water.
The projector at one point.
The projector.
60 grand projector.
Yeah, the 60 grand projection equipment.
It cost as much as a car. Weighed, it felt like
not
as much
far
as a car.
off. We brought a piano up the stairs.
We've done some this place, haven't we? Yeah.
And 6 tons of plasterboard had to get up those stairs. And it's such a limiting factor. It's an unfair factor. It's one that I'm very conscious of. But we'll get there as a town. And failing that, should any of these sites not become available, there are plans to explore how we can increase our audience capacity here in the current site. Whether that means potentially closing for a month and knocking 10 bells, we could actually steal a meter out the back and have the cinema hung above you in a special pod. We could... There's actually a hidden wall. No one look at it. It's made out of timber.
It's where all the Christmas stuff's
Yeah, all the Christmas decorations, all the old posters are down there. Yeah. But it's actually half a metre. And by doing that, we could take the tiering out and recarpet it. And if we took an inch off every tier, we'd get an extra row in. Right. We'd get an extra row in if we went right to the very back wall. Right. So we could actually increase to 70 seats without implementing any changes. But it doesn't help the accessibility. It doesn't help the programming issues that we have here.
And it's getting to a point, it's the problem is with, it's almost like you Claudio Ranieri, victim of your own success, which is people start to think, well, I'll not be able to get in there, it's sold out. And
that's a common thing that we're hearing now. Yeah. And we're still hearing, wow, this is the first time that I've ever been here. Right. I'm not going to go to the multiplex ever again.
And then you go, oh, God.
Yeah. Where am I going to put you? I had someone yesterday going, this is the first time I've been in the pictures since Full Monty came out. Full Monty.
Is that
97-ish? 99?
I'm going to call 98.
No. Someone will message you and say, I want,
I'm going to go down 98. What are you going with?
I'm going 97.
Okay. We'll see.
We'll see. We'll see. And I'm just thinking, wow. So, yeah, I think beyond that, I've always said that I need to sort Whitley Bay first. And I'll be really happy to sort Whitley Bay first.
What do you mean by that?
We know that there's more audience for here. We know that we need to become accessible. When I'm happy that this is our premier venue, we're then going to be starting to look farther afield. And there are probably maybe 4 towns across the northeast of Northumberland that we're particularly interested in exploring. Blythe being one, Morpeth being another, because there's no cinema provision and large populations there.
So you've told us all how to start a cinema, and you've just told us
where
there isn't one.
Where to do it. Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm fairly confident that we'll do it better than anyone.
Right. Okay. Good reply.
Yeah.
Okay, so the future is, the immediate future is, I wish what could have been.
Yeah.
The extended future is, this will happen by hook or by crook, like pretty much this place happened by hook or by crook. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Okay, another question.
Oh, someone else.
And that question was, how far does that actually get you?
No, yeah. Well, 15 minutes ago, you asked that.
Right, yeah. One of them being, what are your own personal goals for the next few years?
So, business-wise and personal-wise, I need to sort this out. I've said it several times, this is my hometown. I would love to be able to explore how we can have a really exciting, sustainable cinema here. I would love to look at how the distributor and exhibitor model works, without wanting to say too much. Small independent cinemas in the UK are treated in many respects the same way as multiplexes. You get a little bit more flexibility, but
from the distributor.
Yeah, I know my audience better than maybe some distributors know my audience.
Right.
And I think a lot of other cinema operators in the UK would agree with that. I would like to potentially pilot new ways of doing things differently. I would potentially like to open another site. That's probably enough.
Okay.
Enough
to keep you busy.
Yeah, my big thing is eventually I want to replace all the seating inside the current screen. That's
okay.
You hit the second-hand Odeon seats, and
they don't feel second-hand. Well,
they don't feel second-hand. They are.
They're clearly second-hand.
Would you like to hazard a guess how old they are?
I mean, we've got seats to the left of us that are over 60, 70 years old. 80,
oh, no.
100 years old?
1872, those Theatre Royal seats.
Wait, that's like...
yeah, they're 140 years. They're holding up. They occasionally
and they've
break.
been through kids' parties.
Yeah. I mean, no one jump on them.
No, Odeon cinema seats. Because you've asked me how old they are, I'm going to say 25 years.
They're 18.
Okay.
We bought them 13 years old. And they didn't look that when we put them in. They look like amazing. But there is a bit of maintenance, a bit of wear and tear on them. Things have changed. Technology of seating has changed. Who knew there was such a thing?
Yeah.
So I'm really hopeful of being able to replace those in the short term.
The toilets replacement since I
Huge.
left was massive.
We had a great little company, H2O Bathrooms. They've just opened in Monk Seaton, actually.
Oh, yeah, I know the shop, yeah.
They did a fabulous service for us. And I remember sitting down going, "You want aubergine stalls?" And I was like, "Yes."
Aubergine.
No, it has to be aubergine.
Did you send emojis to explain this? Or?
No, I did not. And I just remember I actually went to school with Charlotte, and she came back and went, "Well, it's great. The guys came back. They're on 50% end of line clearance. No one wants aubergine stalls." And I was like,
"Oh man!"
But the difference in the toilet and it sounds and that's another thing of, I have a kind of, how much am I in the business? If I go to a restaurant and the toilet's rubbish, I think the food's going to be rubbish.
Right.
And it's the same if you go to a bar or a cinema.
Dirty.
The floor's dirty. Yeah. You think
is my plate
washed
properly?
You do have that subconsciously.
Yeah.
So I think the toilet refurbishments were huge. It was the biggest complaint that we got from people.
Yeah, it was.
And since then, there's no real need to change much in the venue.
Right.
But I want to, because I feel that There's an old Star Trek quote, which is "creatures that don't adapt die," and it was an adage of Charles Darwin on evolutionism. And I firmly believe that if you don't keep investing, if you don't keep redeveloping, if you don't do R&D, yeah, exactly. Please spend some money on the football club.
Yeah.
I'd happily take a seat on your board if you're looking for someone
Right.
local.
I mean, I was gonna say. Yeah, I'm not going to say what I was going to say. I was going to say you're not too far off.
Oh, harsh. If anyone comments that I look like James Corden, I'll be absolutely livid as well.
Well, you were obviously just to take it back a little bit. Cinema what's the right word? Mogul. Wasn't ever, I assume, in your when you're wildest 18-year-old dreams.
No. I was supposed to be having an Oscar by now, if I'm honest with you. I used to compare. I'm the same age as Lindsay Lohan. I know she's had a much tougher innings than I have, if I'm honest. And I used to compare my career to hers, and for a while I thought she was on top, but I feel like I'm doing better now.
Right.
But yeah, I was told go away and do something for 10 years with your life, and then come back. Because there's this young guy called James Corden who's going to hoover up all the work. And if he doesn't, there's another guy called Mark Benton who's going to... And
who's Mark Benton?
Harsh. we saw a film of his very recently that we're not allowed to talk about because it's embargoed.
Yes, you're right.
There you are.
Okay. Him.
Yeah.
Oh, fair.
Yeah. People quickly Google, right, yeah.
So... Has it almost been 10 years since that interview? Well, no, it wasn't audition.
Not quite. I'd be 31 when that happened.
And any plans to go back to performing?
I would like to in the future.
Okay.
But you know what? I'm really lucky. I love my job.
Yeah.
And I complain about it from time to time. It's hard work from time to time. But I am in a very blessed camp to say I love what I do.
Right.
And I find what I do very rewarding. And until that changes,
no need.
Mary Poppins, I'll stay until the wind changes.
Speaking of which, Mary Poppins is
returns coming to Jam Jar Cinema on the 28th of December. Pre-book your tickets now.
Pre-book your tickets.
Pre-book your tickets.
It's a seriously avoidance moment.
We're taking it the week after it comes out. We're going to be a $5 ticket cheaper than going to the multiplex.
Yeah.
It's in the kids' holidays. We are expecting that in a year where Mamma Mia's been huge, in a year where A Star Is Born's been huge, in a year where Bohemian Rhapsody's been huge, we're thinking that Mary Poppins Returns is going to be our record film of all time.
Really?
Yeah. It's going to be massive.
What is your record film of all time at the minute?
Mamma Mia 2.
Okay.
Here we go again.
Right, that's going to be hard to beat. What was the percentage of audience?
We sold out 98% of screenings, and we played it 4 times a day for a fortnight.
So also, obviously, though, a Mary Poppins Return, I'm assuming that a child's ticket's cheaper than...
Yeah, if we talk on audience numbers,
right,
versus rather than over 3,500 people came and saw Mamma Mia. Here we go again with us this summer, which is
considering it's a 50-seat screen.
Yeah, it is
incredible.
We're throwing a staff party to celebrate that we
got
have
through Mamma Mia.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
We're not having a Christmas party,
right,
so we survived Mamma Mia party.
Yeah. But so also a massive milestone, I'm assuming, would be the 100% audience film.
Yeah, that happens. We've had that.
But I mean, on the scale have had 20 screenings.
Yeah,
at 100%.
If you discount the subtitle screen of Bohemian Rhapsody, we're there.
Really?
Yeah, we've sold out every single screening of Star Is Born.
Right. So they are 100%.
They're
Star Is Born's 100%.
100%. They're 100%ers. That's how good our season's been.
Right.
We're normally very quiet in September. We ran at 85%. It was our best ever September. We've gone into our best ever October. Fantastic Beasts is going to be huge here.
Yeah. Is it almost so? We were speaking about needing of a new screen, because obviously you say you can expand this screen a little bit, but you need that new screen to go. We've got 2 massive films on at the same time. And
it's about audience choice. And what's actually happening at the moment is, if you look at our listings coming up to Christmas, we are on sale until Christmas. You can see quite a diverse selection of films, but we are getting people emailing in going, I'd like to see come in 5-6 weeks after a film comes out. Why aren't you still showing this? First Man, nowhere's playing First Man anymore.
Yeah, I came here to see it, and I'll tell the story about First Man, which is the Neil Armstrong movie with Ryan Gosling. I saw it on a trailer in IMAX in the Odeon, and I thought I've got to see this in the Odeon on IMAX. I went to look for it in the Odeon, and it wasn't even on anywhere at all. Never mind in the IMAX. And here it was on. But it's cinema's a weird thing, I think, and what I think this place does so well is it's almost like for some reason a flash in the movie's been and gone in the bigger Odeons.
Yeah.
Whereas here, I think the sweet spot for your general audience is the 2 to 3 week after, where you go, you've seen the adverts and you go, I don't have time to see it this week, but I'll see it in the next few weeks.
I think sector wide, and which is 80% of all audiences are dominated by View, Odeon, and Cineworld. Another 6% is Empire, and 14% are independents in the UK. That 86% of multiplex operators will play their biggest film in their biggest screen for a fortnight, and then odd shows, or maybe a week here and there, until it hits under an occupancy rate, and they drop it.
Right.
And the programmer just gets rid of it.
Is that why the program only 8 days in advance, do you reckon?
Yeah, it's called holdovers, and they start negotiating on how many screenings, how many days, how many screens, and for me, as soon as those big films get moved to a lesser screening offer, we're better.
Right.
You can have a Dolby Atmos screen, you can have a View Extreme screen, you can have an IMAX, and that's great, but our current offering is better than any multiplex in the UK.
Yeah, it's standard screens.
Yeah, standard screen, and that is genuinely down to the Kona vision, the quality of the sound. We test every single film here, and people go away going, "Wow, it's breathtaking." The number of compliments we've had for the audio on Bohemian Rhapsody, because we sat and specifically equalised it, and it's really paid off.
Right. We'll go with the last question of the night, of the morning.
Of the morning.
Let's have a look here. What did you get lucky with? What do you think?
I haven't.
Apart from the stuff that we've told, obviously the lies.
Yeah, the lies.
The phone call to say you've got the grant, to then get a phone call 2 days later saying you've got the loan, or vice versa, was huge.
Yeah.
But obviously there's been times here where, or is there a lesson that maybe other people could take from who maybe are starting their own small business? It doesn't have to be in Whitley Bay, it can be anywhere in the world. Because this has had quite a meteoric rise. Obviously, we're talking 95% attendance figures at the minute. Is there something, or are there some things that you think maybe people are missing when they're jumping into a small business? Is there a trend that's...
People don't listen.
Right.
They think they're right about everything. And actually, for the most part, people are wrong. Never speak to your friends, because your friends will always tell you whatever you do is good.
X Factor being a...
Yeah. Bad singers get told that they're really good and they go on X Factor and they're ridiculed.
Right.
Share ideas with people, and don't be afraid to share ideas with people who will give you honest feedback. And that's probably not your friends and family. Where did I get lucky? So I got lucky that I had a fantastic team of people around us. And friends, family, a mentor, people who support us, me parents, me auntie and uncle.
This is an Oscar speech.
Yeah. No, but on a serious note, people who volunteered, people who gave their time up here, people who worked when... The biggest advice I could give to anyone is to say, can you help me? Because it's really hard to say no. And if you do say no, you're a prick.
Right.
Genuinely. A And I think that's kind of marked here that we're a social enterprise. We subsidise community hires, which has raised over 90,000 for good causes. We give $5,000 away to charitable causes via tickets and donations every year. And when people send an email going, "Can you help me?" we bend over backwards to try and be able to. But I was really lucky that I was supported. I felt safe, especially. It was really hard. Really, really hard the first 2 years. And a lot of people won't talk about the grey days and the hard days and what they're going to do when you just want to bang your head off the wall and there's no one to speak to. And everyone wants to be your friend when you're on the way up. But when you're having a real tough time, they're not really there for you. But I was really blessed that I had a really good support network. I got very lucky with that. I got very lucky with getting the chairs cheap for inside the screen. Right. That was a bit of luck. And I suppose our biggest bit of luck was that I stumbled upon Indie Cinema Group, who are our programming partners, who they do all of our head office support. And the relationship that we have is 10 out of 10.
Right.
And my business has grown because of them. And I hope that I've helped their business grow. All of the suppliers that we work with. We have a golden rule: we only work with nice people. If you're rude, we won't trade with you.
Right.
And that's seen us kind of through, if that makes sense. But I think the concept of luck, where do you get lucky, is actually where does your value sit with other people. And if I've been very lucky that my value set has struck a chord with a lot of other people, be it people volunteering their time, giving us support and money. We have an army of friends here. We have over 350 friends at the cinema, which basically their membership fees help us fundraise. So I would say that where I've got lucky is that we've had a fab team of people, be it customers, be it colleagues, be it friends we work with here, be it suppliers, and that's what made and is continuing to make Jam Jar a standout business in the town and beyond.
Well, that's a very good message to leave it on, I think. Dan Ellis from Jam Jar Cinema, thank you very
much.
Thanks for appearing. I guess that was a longer podcast episode than we usually have.
How long were we on at there?
112. Apart from let's leave out the dodgy first takes. Counting, but I'm sure we'll see you again. We'll see you again for another episode. But it's been lovely to be here. I just want to say you've come a long way, obviously, clearly, since I left a couple of years ago. The place is looking fantastic. And I'm really proud of the whole Jam Jar Cinema team, those that I still kind of know quite well. Yourself I'm proud of, and I think there's only big things in the future for this business, for yourself and for the town. And we'll see you next week, hopefully. I said that last time. For another episode of the Northeast Podcast. Thank you everyone for watching and listening. Please give it a like, please give it a share if you think anyone's interested, and come on down to the cinema.